Good morning, everyone. This is a feedback video on your APGs. This is aimed at the lower sixth. We've just done a couple of questions. I'm not going to run through all the APG answers, but I will focus on the 210 markers that you did. Okay, so these questions were based on social trends in dynamic markets, and especially social trends. If you don't specifically identify the social trend and how it impacts whatever the question's questioning you on, then it becomes abstract. You can't just say a social trend influences, for example. So we have to contextualize. With the dynamic market question, we need to think about dynamic definitions. So this rapid change, for example, throughout as well. So if you define dynamic markets first and then your points don't relate to a changing market and your conclusion doesn't talk about a changing market, unfortunately, it's not going to end well. So these are the two case studies here. I'm rushing through this, so it's a short video for you. And if we're looking at social trends, we are looking for something that could possibly be a social trend. So it could be, for example, environmental. Yeah, so people might be more aware of environmental impact. We've got Blue Planet, for example, which isn't mentioned here, but it's raised awareness of environmental issues. We've got Friends of the Earth. They're a pressure group. They might be raising awareness of the working conditions in developing countries. This could become a trend if people are suddenly concerned. If Samsung are branded as not looking after their workers or they're damaging the environment, and Apple, for example, say that they're environmentally friendly, and as a consumer, if I believe them, I might choose their product. Okay, so over Samsung's, and you can talk about the impact of that. So you have to think about what are the social trends. And I've just mentioned two social trends there. Maybe we would have two paragraphs, who knows? Or it could be that the social trend is really important. However, there might be other things that are more important. These are 10-mark essays. Okay, you do not need to write a lot in these. And remember, they're a time trap. If you're spending more than 10, 12 minutes on planning and writing them, as in getting the information out of the case study and writing them, then you're going to run out of time. Okay, and some of you ran out of time on your APGs, probably because you mismanaged your time in the earlier part of the question. Also, extract B was in there. And when we're talking about dynamic markets, we're talking about changing markets. Not one of you did a calculation. So, we've got changing average incomes. I understand maybe this is a YED question, but we've got information that we could have used. Yeah, you've done a YED calculation at the beginning of the paper, and then you forgot all about it. This is evidence of a changing market. Yeah, we can do some very easy maths here and say how much it is changing and how that's impacting on smartphone sales. Okay, it could be that consumers are earning more money in real terms, meaning there are more people that might want the innovation from Samsung. It would have been beautiful to see that, and I've not put that in my example either, but I wanted to bring your attention to a missed opportunity here. It's really important that you do that. You can tell these videos done by Dobby. He's just said hello. So moving on, context is king. I think cash is king is the original saying, but when we're writing essays, you need to contextualize or it's not going to end well. So moving on to the question, assess whether mobile phone manufacturers such as Samsung, so innovation, market leader, quite expensive, should consider social trends. This is the first part of the hook. Should consider social trends when designing their phones. Design mix. This is the second part of the hook. Should they consider social trends when designing their phone? So you're going to have to talk about designing the phone and the social trends, or you're not going to get the marks. Okay? Whizzing through it, you've got to start answering your questions with a contextualized definition. And recycling is mentioned in the case study, so this isn't abstract. Social trends in relation to the design mix, okay, design mix. We could, if I had a pen for my computer, I could put a bit of app above that. Resource depletion, designing waste minimization. You can read the rest of it, okay? It is a contextualized design mix linked to social trends definition. Then we go into a BLT. Okay, so it's important because by placing greater consider, whoa, look at that. A rework of something from the question to make sure I'm answering it. Placing greater consideration on these social trends when designing phones. That's my point. Samsung may lead to a better reputation than firms that simply focus on features. I've not just said leads to a better reputation. I'm comparing it to companies that might only focus on, for example, their brilliant cameras. Then we need some evidence from the case study, or it just becomes a recall-based answer. For example, what a lovely term to force you to use the case study. For example, criticism from environmental groups such as Friends of the Earth, okay, may be reduced. Okay, so it's quite important we have that context, or it's abstract, maximum level 2, and we are not living the dream, getting 4 out of 10. However, what a lovely word. I've left a space between my paragraphs. The however indicates to the examiner, hold tight, here's my counter argument. Greater consideration, I wonder where I've got the word from. Okay. I'm answering the question, aren't I? Of social trends may increase production cost. Most of you got this point. This is because, comma, certain raw materials, e.g. lithium, not just raw materials. Lithium battery is in the case study. May no longer be considered appropriate due to exploding batteries. A little bit more context. Most of you talked about this, resulting in the need to use alternatives which may affect the functionality of the phone. Okay, so we've got raw materials may increase production cost and it may impact the functionality. We've got two impacts here, and it's actually functionality of the phone is language taken from the design mix, function. Okay, so we're using the language of design mix as well. Overall, let's answer the question. But before we do, let's pop back. What's the hook in the question? Let's make sure that we answer it. Overall, mobile phone manufacturers should consider social trends. It's a repeat of the question, but it directly answers it. Most of you need to practice your justifications. Now, in some questions, you can consider the alternative, and the alternative is not considering social trends. Okay? This is because if they didn't, and competitors like Apple did, if a social trend, like the growing trend towards consumers wanting environmentally products even, loyal Samsung customers might choose to buy Apple instead. It's considering the opportunity cost of not doing it. That answer, depending who's marking it, is going to get 8 to 10 marks out of 10. We've got chains of argument, a minimum of 3 in a 10 marker. The effects are linked to the hook in the question about designing phones or functionality of the phones. We are accurate knowledge and thorough understanding. We've got social trends and design mix in this question, so it needs to cover both of them, and we've contextualized both of them and even used a cheeky word from the design mix in our sentence, which is fantastic, hopefully. Behavior context. It's balanced. Look at that lovely word, however. It's hard to miss the balance, really. Wide-ranging. Well, these are the old standards. So in a 10 marker, we don't have wide-ranging, yeah, because that would be a 12 marker. However, it's balanced. They're well contextualized. They've mentioned context twice. That's how important it is. And we've used quantitative. Well, this answer doesn't. And I probably could have dropped in something from my calculate question, but I didn't do it, and that's fine for this. But next time I should remember qualitative information, and I've interpreted it. Yeah, for example, given an example of focusing on those more environmentally ethically sourced phones. Shows an awareness of competing arguments. Down here, an awareness of competing arguments, not just pros and cons separately. If they didn't and their competitors did, what an easy way of doing it to support my judgment, which is that justification for my judgment. Okay, it's a level 4 answer. 8, 10, don't care really, it's something like that. Look at the context, look at the balance. Moving on, same sort of thing. Okay, we are talking about likely impact is our hook on a business such as Samsung. Okay, technology company, premium, mobile phones, people know the technology and love it or not, of operating in a dynamic market. Some of you wrote consistently changing or always changing. Frequently, I'd be more comfortable with rapid change, possibly if you're describing it. If you contextualized the change, then you could sort of, that doesn't look like it's rapidly changing to me. It is changing, it is growing, but I'm not thinking it's totally dynamic, even though we could say it's dynamic because of that 2-year mobile phone product life cycle we mentioned. Some of you remember the lesson we did on the product life cycle, even though we've not taught the unit yet, and didn't really use it properly, but you're forgiven because we've not done it yet, but well done for having a go. So we're starting off with a contextualized definition to show that we understand the key term. In context of mobile phones, the mobile phone market is influenced by innovation, quotation from the case study, as firms like Samsung and Apple compete using technology to influence sales. Not about dynamic markets yet, but it's sort of setting the scene. This rapidly changing market is classed as a dynamic market. Okay, so instead of doing that on its own, which is what lots of you did, we've got context setting the scene already. We've got that new technology influencing sales, rapid change, innovation. I'm excited to read the next paragraph. This is important because BLT starts. Improved reputation resulting from the release of innovative products like the Note 7 application could result in an opportunity to gain first mover advantage. Okay, remember those tech people that are less sensitive to price? Let's charge them £1,000 for a phone if they really want it, by releasing new products before rivals such as iPhone from Apple. Okay, not just an advantage releasing new products, full stop. Why is it a competitive advantage? Well, here's the competitor. 3 chains of argument, nice couple of bits of context dropped in there, and we need some balance. And here's the word. However, the nature of this rapidly changing market is that there is a need to spend large amount on research and development in order to constantly, not comfortable with that word, but even I've put it in, bringing out innovative products. All of that so far is knowledge. We could be talking about burgers, we could be talking about rocket ships. Now we need to make sure that it's contextualized. There's nothing wrong with it, that's the theory. And this is what most of you wrote. Some of you didn't contextualize properly. The time pressure also led, so constantly bringing out new stuff, loads of R&D, and now a second part of that argument, the time pressure. This is application. Also led to Samsung rushing its development of new products, which resulted in expensive mistakes. I wonder what the mistakes are. Oh, lithium batteries catching fire. Not just expensive mistakes. Use your own interpretation of my answer, please. I've given the example. You're writing answers like you're explaining it to a 10-year-old child. Don't presume the examiner is going to interpret your answer, because they won't. Overall, let's see if we've answered the question. In a technology sector like mobile phones, the dynamic nature of this market will have a positive impact on Samsung's sales. Likely impact on a business of dynamic. This is talking about the dynamic nature. Rapidly changing is in the answer. Yeah, releasing new products. Okay, so we're talking about dynamic market throughout the answer, including the conclusion. Okay, and it's in context with technology sector, Samsung. It's still in context. Let's see if we've justified it properly. If the market was not so dynamic, oh, wow, we're talking about opportunity cost here again. We're comparing it to the alternative. The alternative is it's not dynamic. Maybe it's this slow developing market. I don't know, like cheese. Yeah, I'm not thinking that cheese is dynamic. They try to remind me that cheese is dynamic, but it's not. I'm not going to go out and suddenly buy totally different cheese once every 12 months because they're releasing a new cheese. I still like my mature cheddar. Yeah. So dynamic. This is part of the nature of getting us to buy new tech, isn't it? Brainwashing us to buy a new phone every 24 months, possibly 36, because of how expensive they are on credit agreements. We might see customers keeping their phones longer. Phones, not products. If it wasn't dynamic, they might keep them longer. Therefore, they might not sell as many. Okay? It's really explained in simplistic terms. This might lead to less revenue for Samsung, less opportunity to make profit from its R&D. All this R&D is really expensive, by the way, on features like cameras in new phone models. I didn't want to leave the R&D without any context, even though buying a phone is, and also every few years, is still context. But it was quite easy to drop cameras in there. Okay, very important. Look at how much it has been written here. You'll notice as well that the conclusion overall is roughly the same size, maybe a little bit longer actually, than the paragraphs. That, you know, there's about a third of the marks that are going into your conclusion. So it should really be a third of your answer. Okay, very important. Hopefully that was useful. Did it get full marks? Well, did we cover the knowledge, dynamic markets, and we're talking about technology companies? Were we talking about behavior in context? I would hope so. Was it supported throughout? Excuse me. Well, every bit is contextualized. Chains of argument, ignore the wide ranging because it's a 10 marker. Is it balanced? Hope so. However, you get where we're going, and here's the justification, because if the market was not so dynamic, pretty easy question if you follow context, balance, and the methods that you've been practicing. I hope that was useful. Have a lovely day, and believe it or not, I will see you